What's up, Team Vuong? This is Mr. Vuong. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I wanted to go over One Red Shoe with you guys, the book that we read last time, and then afterwards we'll read the second, or the next read aloud, not the second. I think it's like the third or something now. But before we get started, I want to make sure that we're all regulated and ready to go so that you can dig into the learning. I'm going to turn this around and we're going to take some deep breaths. Ready? Okay. Breathe in and out. Hand on your stomach. You should be feeling it down here. Your stomach expanding. In and out. In through your nose and out through your mouth. Hope you feel a little calmer. Okay, so this one right here, One Red Shoe. I really like this book, like I told you last time, because it's a book that requires you to do some pondering and some thinking about and some interpreting. The author doesn't come straight out right away and tell you what the whole book is about, but they do give you a lot of clues. One thing that I really like about this book is, first of all, the illustrations. The illustrations are pretty cool in here. If you can kind of see all the details, and if you take time to reread and go back and look through the book, you're gonna see lots of things. Like for this one right here, if you can see on the corner of the page, it looks like there's some blood splatter right there. So it kind of cues you into the type of story this is. It starts off really suddenly. Authors start off their stories with a hook. Sometimes they might start off by introducing the setting to the place. Sometimes they might start off introducing the character right away, or they might start off the story by throwing you in the middle of a conversation that two characters are having. Or it might open up with characters' thoughts and feelings. Or books might open up with something very surprising at the very beginning of the story. And for this one, definitely, it opened up like pretty surprisingly. Like, it doesn't build up to it. It just literally throws you in the middle of it, head on. And that's kind of like what the author's intention is to throw you in the middle of this thing and make you feel like you're in turmoil and things are kind of chaotic and going out of hand. Because if I reread the first page to you, or the beginning of the story, it's, luckily, I had put my mobile in my back pocket. The explosions and gunshots outside were so loud that I only detected the call because the phone vibrated. Whoa. Like, right away, like, I wasn't even given any warning before this author just threw it at me about, like, the gunshots and the explosions. And I guess the author did a good job here, just describing the setting of the place. And what the author did was really, like, touch upon the sensory detail in this story. When an author does that, when the author is very intentional about targeting your senses, so senses as your sight, your smell, your taste, your hearing, your touch, or your feeling, that's when you feel like you're right there in the story with the character, along with the character, and however the character might be feeling at that moment, like, you just feel like they are feeling those exact same emotions. Because at the very beginning of this, I can already feel the mood of, like, this dark, like, dangerous kind of setting, even without really knowing what was going on. But reaching back into my schema, okay, remembering what our schema is our schema is your mind, the library in your mind, made up of lots and lots of memories that you develop and you keep after you have had an experience. If you tasted some type of food, or you saw something, or you worked with something with your hands and built something, like once you're able to experience whatever it is, it goes into your schema. So if I reach into my schema, I'm thinking explosions, gunshots. What can I infer here that gives me an idea about where there would be gunshots or explosions? And right away I infer, I'm not sure about you and if you infer the same, but I infer that there's some kind of war going on. Like, are we in a war zone? Is that what's going on? Or like, is this something that takes place just in a regular, um, not a regular, but like around where we live, like in present day, and then suddenly, I don't know, there are burglars outside? Like, what is this? When would it be that we would hear gunshots and explosions? Um, but then as we continue to read on, we start to get a lot of clues about how this could be definitely a war zone. So loud that the phone vibrated in his pocket and made him think, oh, that's the only time that he would hear the phone ring. A school bus had been attacked, my colleague shouted over the sound of combat. The surviving children have just been evacuated. Strange how ordinary this message sounded. So that's crazy. I don't know if you're thinking what I'm thinking, but if somebody called me and said, a school bus has been attacked, like, I wouldn't go, whatever. I always hear that. I would probably have a bigger reaction because this isn't in my schema. I don't live in a place where we would get these calls and I'd be like, okay, yeah, an ordinary day. So how to this guy, how to this character, it seemed like this was just a very like whatever kind of thing, makes me infer that, whoa, maybe this guy has been through it and maybe he's just seen so much in this place that it became normal to him. Meet you at the clinic and keep your head down if you hear the gunfire, my friend. We'll need you here. And with that, he hung up. So already, the author has got my attention. If I keep on going, and I'm seeing stuff like, and guys, rereading is also really, really good. So right now, I'm kind of going back through this, and when you're in your own books, do the exact same thing. Is after you read through it once or whatever, it's always good to go back and kind of just take it slower. Maybe you'll find something that you didn't notice before, a detail or a clue that will help you infer a little bit more and understand what is going on at a very deeper level. So this says, a father and his son were buried just as they were leaving the bakery. An old man on a crutch beside me had watched it happen. Why wasn't it me? I heard him say as he painfully held himself upright. Wow. Just for that man to kind of feel that way, like seeing the explosion hurting this father and his kid, and this old man going like, it should have hit me. Maybe because I'm old now and I've lived my life, and this kid right here hasn't lived their life yet. There's still so much that they have to experience. It's kind of tragic, is what I see. So I'm listening. Television crews gathered out in front of the hotel. They had also heard about the attack on the school bus. I hurried along, staying close to the wall of the houses, past playing children. I held my camera in my hand. You had to be ready for anything. That line right there, I held my camera in my hand. You had to be ready for anything. Makes me infer who this guy could be. He has a camera in his hand. He's like, I need to make sure that if I have it in my hand, I have to be ready to catch it. So I have a camera right here, actually. So what kind of a person would be in a place where there's gunfire and explosions and possibly a war scene that's super dangerous that maybe he shouldn't be there? There are kids involved, and then he's holding his camera and saying, I have to be ready. I have to be ready for it. Anything happening, I have my camera ready to capture it. Makes me infer that this guy is probably some sort of a photographer. And if it's in your schema, there are actually photographers that go out to the scene of like crime scenes after something like a murder has happened, or they are in places of war. And then there are people who are soldiers who carry weapons and are there, and their job is to defend and to fight in the battles. But there are also people there who are nurses and doctors in case somebody gets hurt. And one last thing is photographers. Photographers are also always on the site of anything that's happening so that they can report it. And I'm looking at this picture right here, and I'm starting to see, like, it says ambulance right here, and it has what it looks like. It looks to me like it's Arabic, so it kind of makes me infer, like, if I'm thinking about the setting, like he has a cell phone in his hand, and like cell phones are more of a modern invention, so I would think something like, and I'm thinking what kind of cell phone that he could have, because he has, I don't think it has a picture of him with his cell phone, but yeah, it doesn't. But he has a cell phone, so it makes me think that this is not like the 1800s. It's not like 1700s or the early 1900s even, but this is like late 1900s, early 2000s when cell phones were kind of popping up. And this being in Arabic makes me infer that the setting could be somewhere in the Middle East, in Muslim countries or whatnot, where war is happening right now in the moment as we speak. Already, when I turn to like a page like this, I would see like, wait a minute. Do you guys kind of notice like our eyes would look at this, but then my eyes get drawn right away to this red shoe, and it makes me think, wait a minute, the title is the red shoe, and then his shoe is kind of standing out, so it must have some significance, meaning some importance to the story. Maybe it could represent something bigger than what it actually is, which is a shoe. Let's see. He's 8 or 9 years old, he said. A grenade hit his right leg. He also have a shrapnel wound to the head. So this kid is really hurt and injured, and I'm wondering maybe because of battle or whatnot. A grenade is type of bomb that people would like. Actually, it's not really in my schema how to use a grenade, but I know that you pull something off and you throw the grenade and it explodes. Wow, he wore a red basketball shoe on his left foot. I had given a pair of the same shoes to my nephew for his 8th birthday. I turned my camera on, making me infer, because he said you have to be ready for anything. And then suddenly he's turning his camera on. So I'm like, he's really interested in what's going on right now. Or else he would have just like walked past him. The first time I looked at his face, his eyes were closed, but his lips moved. It seemed like he was saying his name. Maybe children in wartime. Ah, there you go. It confirmed it. This is sometimes during war. Maybe children in wartime learn only early on to repeat their names, even if they lost consciousness, so that relatives could find them. When we say consciousness and someone losing consciousness or falling unconscious, it means that they pass out. Again, you can see there's that red shoe right here. So, pretty important symbol, I would say. A powerful motif. That's another word that means a recurring object, or an object that comes up again and again and again. Blood, we need blood now. Blah, 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 blah. So they're kind of like working on this kid, trying to save him. I held up the camera. Again, it sounds like the camera is also another object that seems to have some sort of significance. Like he sees a shoe, he's holding his camera up. It's coming up again and again and again and again. There must be some importance. There must be some significance to it. Zooming out, I tried to capture the whole room. After all, the people at home deserve the most accurate information possible. That included everything here: doctors, nurses, smashed windows, and this boy with the basketball shoe. The people at home deserve the most accurate information possible. I have to take a picture of everyone on the bed, doctors, like make sure I capture everything. So the people who are at home, which makes me infer maybe you don't live here. Maybe you don't live in the place that you are at right now. Even though it seems like everything's normal to him, he's like, another explosion happened. Like, what else is new? But it makes me feel like maybe he could be capturing this as media, or maybe he's part of a news station, or something to document what is going on in this area so that people back home, which I'm assuming and inferring that it could be the United States, so that they can kind of understand what's going on in this place. And I'm inferring that it could be the United States, but I'm not sure. It does look like the guy is of some European descent, though. He looks kind of white, so maybe the United States, maybe it's a place in Europe. What's the boy's name? I heard myself ask suddenly. Excuse me, can you see we're busy here? The nurse did not seem happy about my presence. What's his name? This boy must have a name. My voice was loud. Somehow this kid is really, really affecting him. Or else he would have been like, okay, peace, and just leave. But he's there and he's demanding it. He wants to know who this kid's name is. And which jumps out at me as like a, whoa, like, I mean, don't you see this happen on a regular basis? Like, why suddenly so interested in this kid that's being brought to the operating room? So there's some significance there, and we have to pay attention to it as a reader. After all, I was here as a photographer to do my job. Confirmed. Just like the doctors and nurses, and I needed the facts. So he's Keenan, 9 years old. Grenade hit the bus. So right here, again, the red shoe. Oh, and this part right here. We see that he's laying there, and then that strange instance where all of a sudden we see this, and then everything has been in black and white before this, and now suddenly the illustrations are in color. So as a reader, I look at this and go, what's going on? Keenan sat upright, and I watched as he calmly pulled the IV drip out of the crook of his arm. I mean, this kid is pulling the needle, the IV, out of his arm, and he sat up. Like, what the heck? So that catches my eye and catches my attention, because I thought he was injured. Like, what is he doing sitting up? As if the head bandage was part of his team uniform, he touched his forehead to make sure it was positioned correctly. He sprang to his feet, lifted his arms, and seemed to grab at something. For a moment, he held a basketball in both hands, then gave it a short spin and balanced it skillfully on the index finger of his right hand. Satisfied with his trick, he dribbled it past the astonished doctors and applauding nurse towards me. I mean, I'd be astonished too, super surprised like them, because I still am right now as I'm reading. Like, wait a minute, you just got up? I thought you were hurt. So are you lying? I nearly dropped my camera. I stared at the gurney, paralyzed. It was empty. The nurses had shifted Keenan to a smaller bed. The IV drip was still in his arm. Wait a minute, didn't he just pull it out? What's going on? And blood now dripped into his body. Maybe he would make it. So, wait, he was just standing up, and then all of a sudden, like, he's laying there again? I'm really confused as a reader. So, I have to step back and go, what really happened here? Was that a memory that the author just cued us in? Or was it something that didn't happen at all? Maybe he imagined it. I retreated to the corner of the room and examined my camera. On the display, so on the display of the camera, when you flip through it, there are the display here with all these pictures through it. So he can see. Okay, well, I don't have a memory card in here, but that's that display. On the display, I looked through the last shots. I had taken the same photo 12 times. In each one, Keenan was stretched out on the gurney. A bloody bandage on his head and a red basketball shoe on his left foot. Oh, wait, so maybe I infer that he didn't get up. Because he's sitting there taking all these pictures, and all of a sudden he's like, well, wait, he's still on the bed. I mean, he didn't take the IV out. Wait, what happened? And he's flipping through it, and he's like, wait, it's the same thing. He's just laying there. So I'm thinking, and I'm inferring that, well, I think that Keenan, or the photographer, the narrator, has imagined this whole thing. That this right here didn't happen at all. But then, that's so interesting though, kind of seeing it like this and just color. And I'm noticing that these other times, it seems the mood was just so dark. And then all of a sudden, we notice that it's all straight in color when he stands up. And then when he's laying back down and hurts, it's like black and white again. So I'm thinking maybe this could really paint the picture that there's color to show some sort of positivity or some sort of optimism, some sort of positive thought or something when it's in color. Like he's getting up, he's better. So then that makes me think, what does that shoe represent if it's in color as well? Does it also represent something that is like optimism? Or like something that is the roses and like the thorns, something that is positive with all the negative stuff? I don't know. I'm just interpreting it. And it went from there. Keenan was stretched out on the gurney, a bloody bandage on his head and a red basketball shoe on his left foot. Hey champ, how's the basketball season going? And all of a sudden it jumped to that dialogue and I'm like, wait a minute, like is he talking to the guy or the kid? Or wait, I'm gonna keep reading. On the other end of the line, my nephew sounded excited. We have a real chance at the championships. Oh, on the other end of the line? Oh, I guess he's calling his nephew on the phone. We have a real chance at the championship. If you're back in time, you have to come to the final game. It would be a privilege. I'd love to be there. Take care of yourself then, and of your shoes. I wanted to tell him, but we had already hung up. I mean, that's the end of the story. And it's like, wait a minute. Throughout this entire story, if we like look through it, we notice that it's about some sort of photographer who seems like he's been in the area for a while because he's like unfazed by all the sound of explosions and whatnot. Some school bus was attacked and he grabbed his camera and started to head out. And then there he saw people being transported by the ambulance. And then his eyes caught on to a boy, but with one red basketball shoe. And this shoe is important because it reminded him of his nephew who has the exact same thing. Or that he gave him the exact same shoes to his nephew that this kid is wearing as well. But there's only just one shoe though. Notice the one red shoe and not two red shoes. And then he's looking at it and he's very interested and he's asking what is this kid's name, and they're trying to save him, and the doctors are like, oh wait, get out of here, like you're in the way, like let us do our work. And he's like, I'm doing my work too, but I'm a photographer, like work with me here. And then all of a sudden he noticed that Keenan, this kid, started standing up and grabbed the basketball and took the IV out of his hand and was walking away. But then like all of a sudden he snaps back to reality. Notice he's still laying there, same as always. And then right after that whole thing happened, he called his nephew and said, hey, I'll be back to watch you during your basketball game. I'll be there to support you. And then now we're like, wait a minute, so what does this whole thing mean? I don't know, like to me, I don't know what you guys think or how you guys interpret this, because there might be lots of different ways of interpreting it. But I'm feeling like there's this theme of gratitude, of him feeling like I need to be grateful for the people that are in my life. Like, I gave this, and when I say I mean him, like, the narrator gave this kid, or gave his nephew, red sneakers or red basketball shoes, and probably didn't even think very much of it until he saw that this kid right here, just a normal kid, maybe reminded him of his nephew, is now fighting for his life. It's wartime, and he's like sitting in the hospital bed saying his name over and over and over again so people know who he is, and know where to find his family. And maybe he's like, whoa, I'm have to be grateful for the people in my life that are still here with me. Um, and he's here thinking that maybe everything could be all right. Maybe he might have a complete set of everything that he needs. And he could get up, he could go away, he could be a normal kid again. Like, he loves basketball or whatnot. But then still here fighting for his life. So it makes me think that he's calling his nephew to go, hey, like, I'll be back. And I'm thankful that you're alive where you are and you are safe. So that's the thing that I'm thinking and inferring as I am thinking about this story, and as I'm thinking about the interpretation of what this story could possibly mean. In wartime, sometimes in wartime, we could lose sight of the big picture and forget about the little things in life that we should be grateful for. Um, and I think that this shoe right here could have some significance or some meaning of like the little things in life. Like, it's just a shoe. Like, not too many people think very much of it. But then within the context of this of wartime, we really start to think that this small little thing that in our lives that we don't think very much about could mean something very significantly mean something very much to a kid who is living during really hard times, and really in a setting that's super dangerous. um yeah, guys, I that's kind of my interpretation of One Red Shoe. Definitely, if we sat here and went back through it, there might be other meanings or other themes that we could pull out. But kind of like that, um, when we're reading it, it's also thinking about the bigger meaning behind the smaller things. And that is super important as you are reading, everybody. Because, Team Bong, the authors will always hide meaning into simple, ordinary things. Remember that out of this video. Big meanings can be hidden in small, ordinary things. And that could cue us into a bigger meaning, like this one. And how to apply this to our lives. Like, I'm thinking about COVID-19 right now and how that's affecting everybody. But then I'm also thinking about how this coronavirus outbreak has made me realize a lot of small things in my life that I probably didn't even think about, like just on the regular when life was normal and I'm just going about my day. But something I've noticed that I'm doing more of is I'm calling people more. Now that we're under quarantine, I'm noticing that I'm FaceTiming people, going on like a webcam meeting and kind of meeting people face to face, but not in person. And I'm doing that a lot more. Before, I was more uncomfortable with doing it. Like, I was like, I'd just rather text you. But now I start to appreciate those moments where I'm like, I can see your face and I can connect with you in this other way, even though we can't physically be there together and hang out together. So that's kind of like another thing too, of thinking about how something small like that, just a phone call, uh, after it took like the coronavirus outbreak for us to realize that maybe it is important to connect back with the people that we love, and we can do that through a simple phone call. So yeah, guys, that's my interpretation of One Red Shoe. Really like this book, guys. If you guys like this video, make sure you like the video and comment down below about any other interpretations that you guys might have had. Like, as I'm talking about this, maybe it might have reminded you of something. Maybe comment also down below what you feel like you've taken for granted, and suddenly this coronavirus outbreak, now that we're home, everyone's at home and quarantined, you have started to realize, like, wait a minute, I never appreciated this more before, but now I'm appreciating it a lot more than I did when we weren't under the quarantine. I don't know, put it in the comments. And guys, share this video if you liked it, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.